My girlfriend was pretending to be a second person on social media, so I exposed her. Hi everyone. I'm Levi, and I want to tell you about an experience I wouldn't wish on anybody. It's about loyalty, appearances, and the hard lessons that come when you realize someone you care about didn't see your worth at all. It all started about a year ago. I, a 34-year-old welder, have been working at Port Mason shipyards for close to 11 years now. It's tough work shaping and forging steel day after day, but it's honest, rewarding, and has given me a life I can be proud of. I've helped construct everything from naval vessels to private superyachts worth more than what I'd make in 10 lifetimes. I grew up in a small town called Ashbourne, Ohio. Dad used to work at the old mill before it shut down, and watching him struggle to rebuild his life taught me early that loyalty to a company only goes one way. So, when I finished trade school, I went straight into welding, worked my way up the hard way. No handouts. Today, I rent a little two-bedroom house with a detached garage where I spend most weekends working on my pride and joy, a 1968 Mustang Fastback. Found it abandoned behind an old farmer's barn when I was 25. Rusted out, missing half its parts, but I've been restoring it piece by piece ever since. Just last month, I dropped in a rebuilt 351 Cleveland I bought from a retired mechanic across town. That thing roars now, probably louder than my neighbors would prefer. I also live with my dog, Baxter, a massive brindle pit lab mix who thinks he's a lapdog. Got him 3 years ago from a shelter that had him labeled as too aggressive, but he's nothing but love and tail wags once you earn his trust. He's a constant reminder that sometimes labels are wrong. Now, when it came to dating, I hadn't had much luck. A serious relationship from high school ended badly when my girlfriend chose someone else during her first year of college. After that, a few short flings, but nothing substantial. I stayed single for almost 3 years before I met Mallory. Mallory was everything I thought I wanted, at least at first glance. I met her at a Super Bowl party at my buddy Clint's place. Clint's one of the electricians at the yard, been my right-hand guy since we were apprentices. His wife, Charlene, had invited some of her coworkers, and that's how Mallory entered the picture. She was striking, blonde hair done up just right, piercing blue eyes, wearing a casual outfit that looked like it had taken hours to perfect while still pretending to be effortless. She had a presence about her, a confidence that made everyone else seem invisible. What surprised me was that instead of hanging out with the marketing and event planning types she came with, she grabbed a beer and parked herself next to me by the TV. Even more surprising? She actually knew the game. She was calling plays before they unfolded, predicting defenses, and even arguing a bad pass interference call with more passion than some of the guys. Most guys try to explain the game to me like I'm an idiot, she said with a sly grin when she caught me looking surprised. It's refreshing not to be treated like a prop. Mallory worked in marketing for an up-and-coming beauty brand based out of Indianapolis. Way out of my league, or so I thought, but we hit it off. She asked a lot of questions about welding, about the shipyard, and for once, it didn't feel like someone was just being polite. She seemed genuinely interested. I got her number that night and texted her the next morning. A few days later, we went to this old diner I liked, nothing fancy, just good burgers and milkshakes. But before our food even hit the table, she was moving the condiments around, fixing the lighting with her phone flashlight, taking picture after picture. Sorry, she said, catching my confused expression. Content for my page. My followers expect updates. It's a whole aesthetic thing. Mallory showed me her Instagram, nearly 50,000 followers. Her feed looked like a curated magazine, perfect lighting, perfect makeup, luxurious backdrops, and not a single picture that wasn't carefully posed. I should have recognized it then, the signs were all there. But when someone who looks like Mallory seems genuinely into a guy like me, a guy with oil under his fingernails and a truck with more years than some high school graduates, it's easy to overlook a few red flags. The first few months were good. When Mallory wasn't glued to her phone, she was fun, engaging, and curious about my life. She'd hang out with me while I worked on the Mustang, handing me tools, asking questions about the engine. She said she loved that I worked with my hands, called it refreshingly masculine compared to the soft, polished type she usually dated. You're a real man, she said once, watching me swap a carburetor. Not like the guys who panic when they have to fix a flat tire. But it wasn't just compliments. Mallory constantly compared me to her past boyfriends, always in ways that made them sound weak, boring, or superficial, while painting me as some rare treasure. At first, it felt good. Then it started to feel strange. Like maybe I wasn't being seen for who I was, but rather for what I symbolized to her, a rugged, authentic guy she could show off in private but not necessarily share with the world. There were other signs too. She started getting particular about how I dressed when we went out, asking me to change if my outfit clashed with hers in photos. She'd get frustrated if I took a bite of my burger before she captured the perfect food shot. Once, she made us leave a new cafe she'd been excited about because the lighting was too dim for good photos. "This is unusable," she said, frowning at her camera. "We're leaving." What hurt was how often it felt like I wasn't there with her, only my body was. The real Mallory was performing for a crowd I couldn't even see. But I pushed it aside. The connection felt real when the phones were down. The chemistry was incredible. I believed she liked me, the real me, even if the digital version of our life didn't quite match. It wasn't until the engagement party that the truth really hit me like a hammer. 2 months before everything fell apart, Mallory's college roommate, Vivian, announced her engagement to a man named Graham, a tech consultant who loved Patagonia vests, startup buzzwords, and talking endlessly about his electric car. They planned an elaborate engagement party at a luxury lodge 3 hours away, nestled by an enormous lake. Mallory had been buzzing about it for weeks. "The place is absolutely gorgeous, Levi," she'd say, scrolling through photos of the venue. "There's going to be a sushi chef flown in from San Diego, a professional photographer, even a flower wall for Instagram shots. My feed is going to look incredible." I wasn't exactly thrilled about spending an entire weekend surrounded by people I didn't know, let alone influencers and corporate types obsessed with appearances. But Mallory seemed so excited, and I thought maybe it was an opportunity to understand her world better. So, I agreed. I even went out of my way to clean up for the occasion. Bought a new button-down, some nice jeans, got my beard trimmed at a proper barbershop, something I hadn't done since my sister's wedding. When I picked Mallory up, she looked stunning in a burgundy dress that clung to her figure like it was made for her. She barely noticed my compliment though, too busy adjusting the lighting on her phone's front-facing camera. "Do you think this dress will photograph well at sunset?" "I'm worried the color might fight with the golden hour tones," she said, frowning thoughtfully at herself. I smiled and told her she looked amazing no matter what, but even then, I felt the gap widening, like I was stepping into a world where my words didn't matter as much as how they looked on screen. The lodge was everything she said it would be. Vaulted ceilings, massive glass walls looking over the water, an infinity pool sparkling in the late afternoon sun. The place reeked of wealth and curated perfection. There must have been over 100 guests there, and every one of them seemed like they had just stepped out of a lifestyle magazine, polished, camera-ready, every outfit and drink perfectly positioned for Instagram. There were servers carrying delicate hors d'oeuvres, a live string quartet, and of course, the ridiculous flower wall already surrounded by people lining up for their candid shots. I tried to play along. I mingled when Mallory pulled me into conversations. I smiled for photos when she asked strangers to snap us together. I even complimented the flower arrangements, even though I couldn't have cared less about hydrangea compositions. Somewhere in the middle of the evening, I met Brady, Vivian's younger brother. Brady was different, a firefighter from Ohio who looked as uncomfortable in that crowd as I felt. "You look like you'd rather be rebuilding a carburetor right now," he joked, shaking my hand. We ended up hanging near the outdoor bar for most of the evening, trading stories about work, college football, and small-town life while the Instagram elite circled around us like exotic birds. It was nice having someone real to talk to. As much as I felt out of place, it wasn't a terrible night. Mallory was affectionate, holding my hand, laughing at my jokes, introducing me as her boyfriend without hesitation. Every time someone snapped a photo, she pulled me in close, smiling at me like I was the only one there. It felt genuine. Or so I thought. The next morning, Mallory was still asleep when I got up. I made coffee and stepped outside onto the massive deck, looking out at the mist rising off the lake. I pulled out my phone, curious to see if any of the professional shots from the night before had made it online. Mallory's profile was flooded with updates. 18 Instagram stories. A fresh post on her main feed. Dozens of tags from other guests. But something was off. In every single picture where we had been together, I was gone. Cropped. Blurred. Erased. Photos I clearly remembered posing for, just her, smiling into the sunset, standing in front of the flower wall, holding a champagne glass. If I had been in the frame originally, you couldn't tell. She had surgically removed me. Even group shots where we had been side by side had been edited. In one, someone had blurred out my face like I was some random photobomber. In selfies we had taken together, my arm was barely visible, cropped awkwardly so it looked like she was there alone. I felt sick. And then I saw the captions. Celebrating love with my favorite people, still searching for my own fairy tale. Third wheel life forever. So much love in the air. Just waiting for my prince to find me. The comments were even worse. Men I didn't recognize leaving heart-eye emojis and compliments about her beauty. And Mallory responding with winking emojis, playful thanks, and comments like, "Maybe someday I'll find someone who's on my wavelength." On her wavelength? What about the guy who spent the evening by her side? What about the man she introduced as her boyfriend?
I sat down heavily on the deck chair, staring at my screen. We'd been dating seriously for over 6 months. I had let her into my life, into my dreams. And here she was, pretending I didn't exist, worse, pretending she was single just to keep up her online image. I tried to make excuses for her at first.
Maybe it was part of some marketing angle? Maybe she was trying to keep her private life private for business reasons? Maybe there was a perfectly rational explanation that didn't involve complete betrayal. But deep down, I knew better. When Mallory finally stumbled out onto the deck in her robe, rubbing her eyes and asking if there was coffee, I handed her my phone without a word, her Instagram post open on the screen. She barely glanced at it before shrugging. "Oh, that," she said casually. "Don't make a big deal, Levi. It's just Instagram. It's not that serious." I tried to stay calm. "You cropped me out of every photo. You told people you're still single. How is that not serious?" Mallory gave an exaggerated sigh like I was being unreasonable. "It's just what works for engagement."
People relate more to the single girl narrative at these things. If I post pictures looking like I'm taken, the algorithm tanks.
Plus. She trailed off, biting her lip. "Plus what?" I asked, voice tightening. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, without a shred of hesitation, "Honestly, Levi. I didn't want people thinking I settled." The words hit me harder than any punch I had taken in my life. "Settled?" Mallory kept talking, clearly annoyed now. "My ex before you was a semi-pro athlete.
Before him, a fashion photographer.
My followers expect a certain lifestyle. You're sweet, but you're simple. You work with your hands. You drive an old truck. It doesn't fit the brand." There it was, the truth I hadn't wanted to see. I wasn't a person to Mallory. I was a prop she used when convenient and hid when she thought I made her aesthetic look less polished. I sat back and said quietly, "I see." She waved her hand dismissively, already reaching for her coffee. "Don't blow this out of proportion. It's just optics. Real life is what matters, not posts. You should be grateful I'm even with you."
"Grateful," I repeated under my breath. Something hardened inside me then, a quiet, heavy shift that told me there was no saving this. No coming back from this kind of contempt.
I didn't raise my voice. I didn't beg for respect.
I finished my coffee, packed my things, and told her I had a work emergency. She barely looked up from her phone as I left the lodge. Driving home alone, I realized something that changed my entire outlook.
Some betrayals aren't loud. They're not dramatic.
They're the slow erasure of your existence by someone who sees you as less than they deserve.
And some debts, no matter how quietly they accumulate, eventually come due.
The drive back home felt endless. Every mile, every passing tree along the highway was another reminder of the truth I hadn't wanted to face. Mallory had never really seen me, as someone who could be a true partner. I was a stagehand in the production of her life, a placeholder until something flashier came along.
But that wasn't going to be the end of it.
If social media was the platform she valued above everything, then maybe it was time reality made an appearance there too.
I wasn't looking for revenge just for the sake of it.
I wanted something more lasting, something that would make her, and maybe others like her, think twice about treating real people like disposable background props.
The first thing I did was reach out to Brady, Vivian's brother. We'd exchanged numbers at the engagement party, promising to grab a drink sometime. I texted him briefly, explaining that I needed a little information, and after hearing what had happened, he didn't hesitate. "You're not the first, you know," he texted back. "My buddy Lincoln dated Mallory for about 4 months last year.
She did the same thing to him, private relationship, no photos, no acknowledgement.
Pretended he didn't exist online. Lincoln and I met at a local sports bar later that week.
He was quiet, soft-spoken, but the pain was obvious as he told his story. She made me feel like I was asking for too much," he said, shaking his head. Like wanting to be recognized as her boyfriend was some kind of immature demand. He showed me screenshots of messages where Mallory brushed him off, posts where she cropped him out of photos, group shots where he was blurred like a stranger.
It was like looking into a mirror.
Encouraged by what I found, I started reaching out through other contacts, friends of friends, old co-workers Mallory had mentioned. Over the next 10 days, I tracked down 3 more men, all with strikingly similar stories. Sawyer, a personal trainer at a local gym Mallory had dated briefly, painted as a fitness model on her Instagram, even though he worked 2 jobs to pay rent. Caleb, who managed a cell phone kiosk at the mall, whom she once described as a startup entrepreneur. Nolan, a former baseball player whose pro career had actually ended after college ball, now working as a high school gym teacher. Each one of them had been edited out of her life the moment it didn't serve her public image anymore. Each one thought they were alone until now. We created a group chat, half support group, half investigation team. It was oddly comforting, realizing we weren't crazy or overreacting. There was a pattern here, calculated, repeated behavior spanning years. But just gathering evidence wasn't enough. If we wanted to hold her accountable, it had to be thorough, undeniable, and most importantly, professional. Enter Jillian, Lincoln's sister, and a real social media manager for a Fortune 100 company. When Lincoln told her what was happening, Jillian offered to help without hesitation. "It's not just about what she did to you guys," Jillian explained when we met. "It's about the bigger lie. Influencers who sell fake lives make real people feel inadequate. They push products, ideals, lifestyles that don't even exist. They hurt more than just the people they date." She knew how to track fake followers, bot engagement, and fraudulent brand deals. Together, we started pulling data, and what we found made everything so much worse. Mallory's follower count had suspicious spikes, thousands gained overnight, often in clumps from foreign regions unlikely to engage with beauty content. Her likes and comments followed predictable, inorganic patterns, with the same fake accounts spamming every photo. Worse, she was charging brands based on this inflated follower count, lying about her engagement rates, selling ad space to companies under false pretenses. Essentially, Mallory wasn't just a fake girlfriend. She was committing actual business fraud. With Jillian's help, we organized everything into a clean, detailed website, MalloryAndersonTruth.com, not the real site, obviously. We structured it carefully. Section 1, Stories and Testimonials from her exes, all verified. Section 2, Unedited photos from events like Vivian's engagement party showing how she cropped and edited us out. Section 3, Data analysis showing her fraudulent follower activity. Section 4, Evidence of her misleading brands and sponsors. Section 5, Recordings, not maliciously obtained, but casual conversations where she openly talked about manipulating her image and lying about her relationships for better optics. It wasn't a smear campaign. It was simply the truth, laid out clearly for anyone who wanted to see it. Once the site was ready, we planned the launch. Carefully. Strategically. We waited for a Tuesday morning, the day Jillian knew most brands monitor influencer activity and check engagement reports. At exactly 9 a.m., the links went live. We also sent anonymous tips to all the brands Mallory was affiliated with. Every sponsorship. Every partnership. Every event planner who had hired her to promote their business. Each tip included a link to the site, with specific timestamps showing fraud or misrepresentation. Jillian also reached out, through her professional network, to 2 major marketing watchdog blogs. Both had huge followings and had previously exposed fraudulent influencers. Finally, we used newly created Instagram and Twitter accounts to post the link publicly, tagging Mallory, her brand sponsors, and a few key public figures in her industry. The reaction was immediate. Within 2 hours, the new Instagram account had over 5,000 followers. Dozens of people shared the link in their stories. Some of Mallory's own acquaintances posted comments like, "Always knew something was off. Wild to see it confirmed. Protect your brand, stop hiring fakes." One of Vivian's cousins posted, "This is why authenticity matters. It's not just about pretty pictures, it's about being an honest person." And then came the bigger fallout. At 11:42 a.m., Mallory's largest brand partnership, a skincare company she had been promoting for over a year, publicly severed ties with her, citing misrepresentation and breach of trust. By noon, 2 more had followed. At 1:15 p.m., Mallory's Instagram page went private. By 3 p.m., she had deleted over half of her past posts. By evening, she shut her account down entirely. My phone buzzed over and over throughout the day, unknown numbers, desperate texts, emails. Mallory begging for a conversation. Mallory threatening legal action. Mallory offering apologies. Mallory pleading for mercy. I didn't answer. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. About showing that sometimes, people who manipulate others, who build towers of lies to stand taller, eventually find those towers crumbling under the weight of reality. 3 days after the site went live, Mallory showed up outside my house. It was early evening, and I had just pulled into the driveway after a long day at the shipyard. Her white crossover SUV was parked at the curb, and she was sitting on my porch steps, knees tucked up to her chest, tears streaking down her face. As soon as she saw me, she ran over, grabbing my arm. "Levi, please," she cried. "Please talk to me. I'm losing everything. My sponsors are gone.
My agent dropped me. People are sending me awful messages.
I can't even walk into a coffee shop without feeling like everyone's staring at me. I stood still for a moment, watching her. Gone was the perfect makeup, the curated wardrobe, the polished smile. Standing before me was just a person, raw, desperate, human. But the memory of her words at that lodge, I didn't want people thinking I settled, echoed too clearly. It's just social media, Mallory, I said softly, mirroring her words from before. It's not that deep, remember? Her face crumpled even more. You don't understand, she sobbed. This isn't just followers. It's my career. It's my life. I'm going to lose my apartment, my income, everything. I took a slow breath. Maybe you should have thought about that before building a life out of smoke and mirrors, I said. She begged me, offered money, promises, anything. She apologized, swore she had learned, that she saw now how much she had hurt people. She said she couldn't sleep. That she hadn't eaten in days. That her parents had stopped taking her calls, too ashamed to be associated with her public scandal. I listened quietly. But I didn't let her inside. Instead, I simply said, maybe it's time you lived a life you don't have to crop and filter to be proud of. Then I turned, walked into my house, and locked the door behind me. Through the window, I watched her sit back down on the steps, shoulders shaking, alone. The fallout over the next few weeks was even bigger than I had expected. Within 48 hours, every brand Mallory had been working with had terminated their contracts. A handful of marketing blogs picked up the story. TikTok creators did reaction videos. Hashtags about authenticity and influencer culture trended for days. It wasn't just about Mallory anymore. It had tapped into something larger, a growing resentment people felt toward fake lifestyles presented as reality. A longing for something more real. Somewhere in all the noise, Mallory issued a long apology posted through a newly created Authentic Journey Instagram page. She talked about how she had gotten caught up in chasing validation. How she regretted hurting people she cared about. How she was stepping back to rebuild from the ground up. Some people forgave her. Some didn't. I didn't comment publicly. I didn't need to. As for me, life has moved forward, and it's been better than I ever could have imagined. Clint and I repaired our friendship completely. Turns out, real friends will wait for you even when you make mistakes. We hang out every week again, working on cars, fishing trips, the occasional beer and ball game. Brady introduced me to a softball team through the Firehouse guys, and for the first time in a long time, I expanded my circle. New friends, real people, no filters needed. Even more surprising, Jillian and I started seeing each other, slowly, naturally. It began with coffee meetings about the website, then lunch breaks, then longer evenings just talking about everything, not curated lives, but real ones. Jillian is everything Mallory pretended to be. Kind without calculation. Driven without stepping over others. Beautiful without needing to prove it to anyone. We took Baxter on a camping trip last month, no cell service, no posting, no performing. Just a dog, a campfire, a couple of fishing poles, and honest laughter under the stars. And you know what? We took a few photos too, goofy, messy, genuine snapshots. I didn't even think about who would like them. We printed a few out and stuck them on the fridge. No hashtags. No angles. Just memories. As for the Mustang? After 2 years of work, she's finally finished. Glossy midnight blue with white rally stripes, rumbling down the old backroads whenever I need to remember who I am. Jillian loves it. She says the car has soul, and maybe that's the best compliment I've ever gotten. Because that's the lesson all of this taught me. Life isn't supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be real. Messy. Loud. Unfiltered. And the people worth keeping around are the ones who don't just pose with you when the lighting's good, they stick around when the engine won't start, when the paint's chipped, when you're just you. No filters. No edits. Just life. And honestly, that's more beautiful than anything I ever could have posted online. Thank you for watching the video, like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.